And Grosvenor Group owns some of the world's most expensive property, including swathes of Mayfair and Belgravia in central London.
There's a part of London that doesn't feel like London. Mayfair, Belgravia, impossibly quiet streets, perfect facades, not a cigarette butt in sight. It feels managed, because it is. But by who? Not Parliament, not even the royal family.
He's worth about 12 billion, so yeah, that definitely makes him one of the more eligible young men in Britain. But
a single private dynasty, the Grosvenors. They don't run for office or appear on billboards. In fact, most people wouldn't recognize their name at all, and that's exactly how they like it. Quiet influence, private wealth. Yet they own more of central London than almost anyone else. Over 300 acres of some of the most valuable land in the country sits under their name. They collect rent from foreign embassies. They decide what buildings can look like. And for centuries, they've done all of this from behind the scenes. So how did one family come to own such a massive slice of Britain's capital? And how have they kept it for so long? Let's take a closer look. If you've ever walked through Mayfair or Belgravia, you've probably noticed how different these areas feel from the rest of London. The streets are quieter, the buildings more uniform, and everything seems perfectly in place. That's not a coincidence. Over 300 acres in these districts, land that feels perfectly curated, belong to one family, the Grosvenors. Did you know? The Grosvenor Estate collects rent from multiple foreign embassies in Belgravia and Mayfair, an income stream hidden in plain sight. Unlike most landlords, the Grosvenors rarely sell. Instead, they lease long-term. This gives them a kind of slow, steady control over how their neighborhoods are maintained. If someone wants to update their windows, change a storefront, or repaint a front door, the estate has to approve it. This careful oversight ensures to keep the historic charm intact, even as the world around it changes. There's also a broader vision behind it. The estate invests in public spaces, maintains garden squares, and supports cultural programs that make the area more than just a wealthy postcode. To most people, it all seems seamless. But behind that smooth appearance is a structure that has been refined over centuries. And the story of how the Grosvenors came to manage such a vast part of London starts long before property leases and planning teams were even a concept. The story of the Grosvenor family begins nearly 1,000 years ago, not in London, but in the quiet countryside of Cheshire. In 1066, Hugh Lupus, a Norman knight who fought alongside William the Conqueror, was rewarded with vast land holdings. That grant marked the beginning of the Grosvenors' rise. For centuries, the Grosvenors remained country landowners, wealthy, certainly, but not yet city makers. That all changed in 1677, with a single marriage that would alter the family's fortune. Sir Thomas Grosvenor married Mary Davies, a wealthy heiress with a rather unremarkable dowry, at least by the standards of the time. She brought with her around 500 acres of open land to the west of London. At that point, it was little more than muddy fields on the city's fringe. No grand mansions, no embassies, just potential. As London expanded in the 18th and 19th centuries, that patch of boggy farmland became central. But instead of selling it off for quick profit, the Grosvenors took the long view. They leased, they planned, they waited. As Gerald Grosvenor once said,
"Certainly when I was at school, the academic studies came very low down on the list of priorities. We have always stuck to the business of land, because that's the business we know."
They didn't chase trends. They played the long game. They knew land, they understood its worth, and they stuck to it. One decision at a time, over hundreds of years. But how do you turn a muddy stretch of farmland into London's most iconic addresses? That's what the Grosvenors did next. As the 1800s rolled in, London was pushing westward, out of the crowded, smoky center and into open land. That's where the Grosvenor family came in. Hugh Lupus Grosvenor, who would later become the first Duke of Westminster, inherited a chunk of this land, what we now call Mayfair and Belgravia. Back then, it was mostly fields. But Hugh didn't see farmland. He saw the future. Instead of selling it off, he decided to build. Not just houses, but neighborhoods. He partnered with Thomas Cubitt, one of the most influential builders of the time. Their vision? Streets with balance, beauty, and purpose. Squares like Grosvenor and Belgrave weren't random grids. They were carefully planned, with symmetry and shared green spaces. It wasn't about quick profits. It was about permanence. And that long game paid off. Today, apartments in Grosvenor Square still carry the family name, and prices that can hit £7,500 per square foot. That's not just location, that's legacy. By 1874, Queen Victoria gave Hugh the title of Duke. But the real power wasn't just in the peerage. It was in the brickwork, the bylaws, the architectural rules that still shape these streets today. And while the grand townhouses told one story, the real empire was already reaching beyond London. Look beyond London, and you'll find the Grosvenor footprint in over 60 cities across the globe. Over the past century, it has become a global property business, with assets spread across Europe, North America, and Asia. The scale of the operation today is vast. By 2023, the Grosvenor Group managed property with over 1,500 sites under its stewardship. Their portfolio includes everything from retail developments and office buildings to agricultural land and large-scale housing projects. In the UK alone, the group's property was valued at around £4.8 billion, and their rural estates, spanning areas like Cheshire, Lancashire, and Scotland, cover tens of thousands of acres. To put it in perspective, the Grosvenors own more prime urban real estate in central London than the entire GDP of some small nations. In early 2025, average prices in prime Mayfair properties sat at approximately £2,005 per square foot,
commanding a premium nearly 90% above the wider Westminster average. Internationally, their reach has expanded into Washington, D.C., Vancouver, Madrid, Paris, and Hong Kong. Their portfolio is so extensive, you could live in a Grosvenor-owned apartment in Vancouver, shop in one in Hong Kong, and walk past another in Washington, D.C., all in the same week. But the philosophy remains consistent. The company avoids speculative investment cycles and focuses on long-term growth. Projects are designed to align with the surrounding community, often prioritizing heritage, sustainability, and local impact. When Gerald Grosvenor passed away in 2016, the title and responsibilities of the Grosvenor Estate passed to his son, Hugh Richard Lewis Grosvenor. At just 25 years old, Hugh became the 7th Duke of Westminster and the head of a property empire with roots stretching back nearly a millennium. He may have inherited the title, but his approach has been hands-on. He studied countryside management at university and worked in business analysis before assuming leadership of the estate. As a student, he was known to join local conservation projects, once even helping plant hedgerows on his family's own estate grounds. Not exactly what you'd expect from a future duke, but it hints at how personally he takes the land he now oversees. Friends and colleagues often describe him as quiet, thoughtful, and serious about the role he's inherited. You won't often see him in the spotlight, but when he makes a decision, it's felt across the estate. Under his watch, there's been a noticeable shift, one that respects the family's long history, but also responds to the challenges of the present day. Whether it's protecting green space, supporting new housing, or preserving the character of old neighborhoods, his approach feels less about power and more about stewardship. Hugh's connection to Britain's royal family has drawn attention as well. He is godfather to both Prince George and Prince Archie, and is a personal friend of Prince William. In June 2024, he married Olivia Henson in a ceremony attended by senior members of the royal family, held in the Duke's home county of Cheshire. The family's influence extends beyond land and title. Hugh's sister, Lady Edwina Snow, is active in social reform, particularly in the prison system. I really enjoyed the events today, and thank you to the CSJ for bringing women in prison to the top of the agenda and the fringe events. I'm very much looking forward to hearing from the minister as to what we can do in the short term, in the here and now, the things that we don't need legislation for to make these really important changes. Because whilst we procrastinate and do nothing, people, it's our end on the inside, and society isn't safer on the outside, so we really need to concentrate and get some things done now in the short term. Through their foundation work, both siblings continue to link historic privilege with public service. It's a quiet form of leadership, but one shaped by a growing sense of social responsibility. For a family as deeply rooted as the Grosvenors, power has always been subtle. But these days, staying quiet doesn't keep criticism away. In 2017, the Grosvenors were named in the Paradise Papers, a massive data leak that revealed how global elites used offshore entities to manage wealth. Nothing illegal occurred, but it cast new light on how dynastic families preserve financial empires out of public view. The optics weren't great. Then in 2019, a redevelopment plan for Walden House in Belgravia stirred outrage. The plan would have displaced dozens of low-income families to make room for luxury housing. A petition gathered over 180,000 signatures, and under pressure, the Grosvenor Group revised the project to include affordable units on site. It was a rare public step back, and a clear sign that even London's wealthiest landlords aren't above public pressure. More recently, they sold a 25% stake in Mayfair to Norway's sovereign wealth fund, marking a shift from total family control to strategic global partnerships. Today, stewardship means more than tradition. It requires transparency, flexibility, and a willingness to evolve in a city that never stands still. The Grosvenor family built their empire slowly, through planning and never letting go of the land they knew would matter. Walk through Mayfair or Belgravia today, and you're seeing their legacy in every brick and square. If you want more stories about the families shaping cities behind the scenes, like the Rothschilds or Rockefellers, drop a name in the comments. And if you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon, because we've got plenty more to uncover. See you next time.